All right, quick rundown. Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Paulo Freire was born in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. He grew up extremely poor and watched his government put down and subjugate and oppress poor people in the area where he lived. This is the most influential book I've probably ever read. It is central to critical education theories. It is essential to critical thinking. And again, I could read it over and over and over, but here we go. Oppression, overwhelming control is necrophilic. It is nourished by love of death, by not life. The banking concept of education, meaning teaching kids through standardized education that they must memorize this or that the teacher is the knower. They are the depositor of information into an empty bank account that is the child. They are not using what Freire calls conscientization, which is a concept of critical thinking and being holistically united with our body mind, if you're going to go with the root of Dr. Gabor Mate. Let's continue because this is important for men. Listen up, guys, because this is it. You're not being alpha. You're not being tough. Okay. This is from a book from people who have been oppressed. This is a guy who grew up in the favelas. This is serious. Okay. This guy knows oppression. He didn't grow up in Canada in a middle-aged or in a middle-income home. Oh, I wish I had 3 fridges and 4 cars. Okay. So all of us have it pretty good here relatively. Let me continue. The banking concept of education, right? So we're depositing information into the next generation. The banking concept of education is what Hannah Arendt, a famous German philosopher on education in 1954, wrote in an essay. Sorry, I'm sweating. I just was outside. She talks about how in 1954, it's the names and games of the fathers who ultimately prevail, and we're always living a generation behind. We have older people who are passing on information that is no longer of relevance or use to a younger generation. So here we go. The banking concept of education. The teacher's in charge, student is an empty receptacle into which the authoritarian or patriarchal figure is depositing information. Can't do this. So the banking concept is rather pretty simple and infringes upon what Paulo Freire calls the concept of conscientization, which is the conscientization and realization of our role in the world and being mentally aware of how we can critically use our collective agency or power to overthrow oppression. So again, through public education, we currently have standardized education, and the idea of standardization does not work as we currently see throughout the world. So this banking concept serves in the interest of oppression, is also necrophilic, based on a mechanistic, static, unmoving, naturalistic, spatialized view of consciousness. It transforms students into receiving objects. Okay, so we've grown up. This has been normalized since the 1960s in the West, and that comes from Gabor Mate and Dr. Neufeld. It attempts to control thinking and action. How many people here believe that when they went to school, they were able to critically and freely think? Okay, and again, this is part of the system of oppression. People who work and grow up within my podcast, I discuss this. We are the fish in water. David Foster Wallace. It's hard to see what we're born into, right? Culture shock is us going out of our water and to see other people's places. Back to Paulo Freire. So it transforms students and people, ergo our society. As kids age out of school, this comes into our society. Quote, it attempts to control thinking and action, leads women and men to adjust to the world, and inhibits their creative power. Therefore, whatever the box that is imposed upon us at our youngest age, as Jean-Jacques Rousseau would say, man is free, but everywhere he has been chains, and these chains are invisible. These are our conditioning. This is our culture. This is what our religion, friends, family teach us, and what is confirmed by our own experiences. Okay, so if you don't have the experience about something, it's better just to keep quiet, right? If you've never gone skydiving, are you going to tell somebody who's been skydiving how it is or how it works? I don't think so. So what's happening is we have a bunch of passive people because we've inherited privilege from people who fought in wars. Okay, people who fought in wars, World War I, World War II, with the idea that there should be a morally good component to our democracy. That's what we call liberal democracy. It's not about liberal party. It's about, are we open to critical thinking? Are we allowed to criticize police and politicians? As we move forward in 2025, if you feel uncomfortable openly criticizing or stating your opinion, then you are living in a state of oppression. And that is through our conditioning. We watch movies about heroes who stand up. We celebrate Martin Luther King, but also we put Martin Luther King onto a 2-dimensional poster and leave him on the wall. It's a lot of performativity. So if you're going online and you're going after somebody else based on your opinion, that's based on your experiences, and then doing the exact same thing that the other people are doing. Nobody's listening. And this is oppression. We're all oppressing each other. Freedom of speech does not make yours or anybody else's better. And in Canada, we do not have freedom of speech. Our freedom of expression is protected by the Canadian Charter. Article number 1 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it should be your best friend because it says every other article in the Charter is subjugated or less than Article 1. If the government wishes to make a decision, it has to be cleared by the Charter. So the first article of the Charter says you have full rights to do these things up until the point you infringe upon the rights of others. So Canada does not have freedom of speech like the United States. We have freedom of expression, which is protected by the Charter and is open to interpretation. Therefore, you have freedom of speech in Canada up until the point that you say something that is harmful, derogatory, or infringes upon somebody else's well-being. That is law. Peace, order, and good government. It's the center of my new podcast, and I'm talking about tariff wars. This isn't the first time. All of these people, Hitler, people through history, dictators know history very well, and they use it against us. And we're especially able to be oppressed. Here we go, Paulo Freire. When the efforts to act responsibly by a population are frustrated, when they find themselves unable to use their faculties, people suffer. So if you don't feel you're able to express yourself, to be creative, you will suffer. Freire, this suffering due to impotence, lack of power, is rooted in the very fact that the human equilibrium has been disturbed. And this is the link I make to the mind-body connection. Holistic living, mind, body, spirit, and emotion. We are fragmented and dissociated through a culture that does not treat us as individual people to be cared for. Freire. But the inability to act, which causes people anguish, also causes them to reject their impotence or lack of power by attempting to restore their capacity to act. So when people feel like they can't act, like they don't have power, they will act to restore it. Back to Freire. But can they? Can you restore your power? How? One way, this is it, Donald Trump. One way is to submit to and identify with a person or group having power. Ooh, left or right doesn't matter, but the guy currently in charge is Donald Trump. So this is who we're talking about. By this symbolic participation, not real participation. Donald Trump doesn't know you. All of these politicians are not impressed by you. They don't care about you. Just look at what happened to Charlie Kirk. Either way, is Donald Trump out there crying and lamenting the death of Charlie Kirk, or is he using it for leverage? Okay, so this is it. Let Charlie Kirk's legacy be made by his own words, but look at how people who were supposedly on his side are treating him, because that's how they will treat you, as disposable. Right here, by symbolic participation, liking, talking with other men, participation in another person's life, anybody, vicarious living. Men have the illusion of acting, when in reality they only submit to and become a part of those who act. Therefore, all of the freedom of speechers, my alpha males, my Joe Rogans, all these tough guys during COVID who were too good for science and masks, you are the sheep right here. This is somebody who's been through a lot more than you ever have. Okay. We've all gone to the same assemblies. We all learned the same lessons in school. Right. So don't wish for anybody else what you wouldn't wish for yourself. And instead of saying, treat others how you'd like to be treated, treat yourself how you treat others. Right? So if you're going around and you're angry and you're rude, start treating your family like that. Populist manifestations perhaps best exemplify this type of behavior by the oppressed. You're not free, and we can be free if we all act together instead of fighting our neighbors and believing that we're, Übermensch, as Hitler would say, we're all better than these other colored people. Bogus. Populist manifestations best exemplify this behavior by the oppressed, who identify with charismatic leaders, and they come to feel that they themselves are active and effective. Ooh, social media trolls, people who stand up for guys like, podcasters who go out and just rabble rouse and try to start problems. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm trying to bring reason and critical thinking through people who have experienced it. That's Canadian grit. I'm not out here making this stuff up to aggravate people. I'm using my knowledge. I'm using my whole life's experience. What my grandfather taught me, why I wear a poppy, why I grow poppies in my garden is because I remember. Okay? Listen to the podcast, John McCrae in Flanders Fields. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. The torch be yours to hold it high, and if ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep. They're not asleep. Don't go to a Remembrance Day ceremony. Don't say you're pro-veteran. Don't say these things because you're not. The rebellion they express as they emerge in the historical process is motivated by that desire to act effectively. Therefore, what we're doing today is not effective because it's online and nobody's leaving their houses. The dominant elites consider the remedy to be more domination and repression carried out in the name of freedom, order, social peace. That is, the peace of the elites. Thus, they can condemn logically from their point of view, from their elite rich point of view, quote, the violence of a strike by workers and can pull upon the state. Does it sound like the National Guard? Does it sound like a lot of police we're seeing around the world who are coming down on people using their democratic voices? Where are my freedom of speeches at on Gaza, on what's happening with police around the world, in Canada? Where are all the likes? Why does everybody go crazy for Charlie Kirk, but for nobody else? Thus, they can condemn logically from their point of view the violence of a strike by workers and call upon the state, police, organized power in the same breath to use violence in putting down the strike. Therefore, my whole point of Canadian Grit is this: education, as the exercise of domination, stimulates the credulity of students with the ideological intent, often not perceived by educators, of indoctrinating them to adapt to the world of oppression. Therefore, in one sentence, Paulo Freire has said exactly the truth of what continues to this day, and it goes back to John Dewey's writings in 1916, 1938. We've got Arendt in the 50s. They continue all of this discussion that in standardization and public education, we're not creating critical thinkers. We're not allowing their social determinants into this. We need to allow people to bring their lived experiences and their diversity into their learning. Otherwise, it's fruitless, it's abstract, and meaningless. It's oppressive. So we're not teaching people to be critical. We're teaching them to be consumers. And right here, indoctrinating them to adapt to the world of oppression. So through testing, through multiple choice, through regurgitation, this is the language and names and games of the father that Hannah Arendt spoke about in 1954. And this is the type of thing that leads to uncritical thinkers who cannot think their way out of a box. And therefore, instead of being able to create and move out of the Rust Belt, for example, or to innovate, they look to somebody as a savior, which is also indicative by the number of, Marvel and superhero movies of the last decade, right? We're passive. Everybody's online yelling about Charlie Kirk or this or that and bringing God into it. Don't you dare. This has nothing to do with God. Christ already died for our sins. What are you doing about it? You have a critical thinking brain that has been put on mute through years of making you believe that being passive and just yelling from the basement is an active way of changing democracy. It is not. We need people to come outside. We need people to come outside and we need people to do things about it. This accusation is not made in the naive hope that the dominant elites will thereby simply abandon the practice. Its objective is to call the attention of true humanists, not political party. Let's rise above political party. We see each other all as valuable, worthy humans, here for a cause, valuable and worthy of life. True humanists to the fact that they cannot use banking educational methods in the pursuit of liberation, for they would only negate that very pursuit. Nor may a revolutionary society inherit these methods from an oppressor society. The revolutionary society which practices banking education is either misguided or mistrusting of people. In either event, it is threatened by the specter of reaction. Those who espouse the cause of liberation are themselves surrounded and influenced by the climate which generates the banking concept and do not perceive its significance or dehumanizing power. Therein is the crux where I make the connection between traumatization of standardized education and how we are harming children and educators by not allowing them to critically think, and they are being oppressed and subjugated by Western governments all over the world. This is Paulo Freire. This goes back to Dr. Hans Selye in 1967, I believe, who influenced the works of Dr. Gabor Mate, Candace Pert, who coined the term body mind, and also Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who has received a lot of notoriety for his work on when the body keeps the score, which is all about psychoneuroimmunology, meaning psycho, our brain, neuro, nerves, immunology. So with increased stress, governments are oppressing us by not letting us know things that have been known for 70 years, like high stress during pregnancy causes asthma, that a woman in a stressful job is 30% more likely to die of things like a heart attack, or that smoking can be more, or that working in a bad job can be more deadly to your health than smoking cigarettes. Start to use your brain. Don't get involved in other people's games. Don't be an echo chamber or or a voice box for somebody else. How would you act in these scenarios if it were you, your family? When people go down, are you on your cell phone recording, or are you helping? If it was you, if it was your brother, your mother, your sister, your father, anybody you know, your best friend who got hurt, and you were not there, would you want people to pull out their phone and record, or to help? Don't be part of the problem. Don't be part of the oppression. Don't oppress your neighbors. You see, we don't need police. We live in what is called Foucault's panopticon. It's a prison built almost like a circle, and there are no guards because all the prisoners, they watch each other nonstop. Okay? Go look up the Stasi, Staatssicherheit, the people who, the secret police who policed Eastern Germany, after the creation of the Berlin Wall in the Soviet sector. In the early 90s, brothers, sisters, family members, daughters went in and they found boxes of records on them that had been provided by family members. Everybody has a leverage point and can be used. They can be manipulated through propaganda into believing that they're helping you when they're actually putting you in chains. These books are out there. For 99.9% of history, people haven't had access to any of this. It was the Dark Ages run by kings who paid priests. They wouldn't let people read. And then came, the Gutenberg press, the printing press. Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King. The father of the Reformation who had the 99 Theses, he went and banged them on the door in Wittenberg, Germany. And he said that the Bible needs to be available in the vernacular. It needs to be available in German. We have the printing press. Why are we going to see a priest to interpret God's word for us? And you see, that's what we're doing with history. And now we're just wasting everything that all of those people fought and died for. We talk about economy. We can't even define it. We take our kids to war movies. It's disgusting. Can't define oppression. Don't go about clean up our own backyard. This is a grassroots movement. As Canadians, we owe it to those who came before us. The poppy, Remembrance Day. Where is everybody? I'm starting to think that Jean Chrétien was really the last great prime minister this country had. Kept us out of Iraq. He foresaw all of this coming with Americanization and the banks. Liberals kept us out of this mess, and it's not the Liberal Party. It's people who are progressive, conservative. And we've lost the entire definition of conservative since 2003, when the Progressive Conservative Party was amalgamated with the Canadian Alliance and Reform Party of Preston Manning and Stockwell Day by Stephen Harper. And we need to pay attention. We can do better. Your kids deserve it. You deserve it. I deserve it. Our whole community, Canada and humanity, deserves it. Pedagogy of the Oppressed. You can get the PDF for free, but it's so good I paid for it. Have a great day, everybody. Be passionate. Passion shows care. Care is healthy. Every emotion is legitimate, but they're trying to make us feel as though anger and resentment don't have a place. Yes, they do. And when they're not expressed healthily through communication and healthy debate and democratic open debate, you have things like Utah Valley. Is that what you want in Canada? People were saying, good thing he's dead. I'm glad he got shot. Do you want that happening in Halifax? Do you want that happening in Toronto? Do you want that happening in Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Yukon? Shame on you. It's not even our country. If you like it and it's so bad here, go move there before, what are you doing? Maybe we should build a wall.